ZZ109FM, this is Elsie Jenkins. It is 2026. It's beautiful to be alive. It's a blessing to be alive. Lord have mercy. Mm. Who would have thought that Israel, Iran, United States possibly pushing the world together in the worst way possible? But we saw how 2026 started. It started off with the explosion. Venezuela president ripped out his bed and so forth. And from there, that was the preview of the year. It was a preview movie. Then you get your main movie comes on, and the main movie is Israel and Iran having issues. And here we are. Here we are. Is it because of us listeners? I look at all the conflicts I've been through, and I ask myself, did I cause any of these conflicts? And I look in the mirror and I say to myself, no, because I know how to communicate with people. I get upset with people, but I don't resort to a moment where I put my hands on people and get out of control. It's amazing. It's amazing. But I look at the conflicts and I'm thinking, we the listeners aren't the problem. We the listeners are not the problem. We're not the war people. I don't have money to buy tanks and bullets and guns and planes. I don't have the money for that. You don't have the money for that. But someone has the money for these things. And constantly go out here and share these things and eventually put them to use. And it's not me. It's not the listener. It's not the person on this end of the spectrum. It's another group of people that just feel like that's the only way they can resolve things is to be violent with folks. And then we end up getting drafted. We end up losing our stocks and our investments. We end up seeing the gas go up to $4 and $7 and $9. We end up getting attacked by terrorist cells. We end up on the end of the spectrum where why is it us getting these results? We're not the ones that started the problem in the first place. Doesn't make any damn sense. And the reason why we are alive today and talking today is because we have, I don't want to say the greatest country on the planet, because look how they've treated people over the years. Look how we're treating people that are really here to work and take care of their families, whether they're here or outside the United States. Look how we're treating people. That doesn't sound like a great country that treats people and separates families. What kind of country separates family? Are we the greatest country in the world when we're separating families, little kids from their mothers and fathers? Are we a great country? If I heard of a country outside of my country doing that, that's not a great country. How do you feel if you was a child being separated from your parents? That's traumatic experience. So how is it a great country doing that to people, sending them off nilly-willy to places without any resources? How is it a great country? I wouldn't think that was a great country. And there's some things that kind of made this a great country, like the freedom of speech. To be able to say things, because in certain countries you try to say some things and you'll get your tongue cut out your mouth, you'll get your head cut off of your body. Bad things will happen to you. Well, this country is one of those countries where, if you indirectly look at it, a lot of people said great things and started great revolutions, and this country's evolved from the freedom of speech. And that's not necessarily true. Because we're thinking, yeah, we're free to speak here. We got the freedom of speech here, but we're learning that that's only on the federal level. See, the rules cover you on the federal level. Now, on the private level, there are limitations. That's right, limitations. And I had a conversation with somebody asking me why this firefighter that was in Congress and the Capitol Police grabbed the man, and instead of being professional and trying to walk him out. Now, that's the one thing you got to learn about law enforcement. Even though someone is being belligerent and violent, you can still, in a professional way, remove them from the incident. Now, how we used to handle things is we tried to be professional initially. And you can holler and scream all you want. I mean, there's no controlling someone hollering and screaming. You have a right to holler and scream and say what you want to say. But this was a private meeting, and you're disrupting the meeting. So we start to remove you from the incident. Now, you already disrupted the meeting, so we're not going to ask you to leave. You're going to be escorted out. So we're going to escalate the event, but we're going to escort you out with some respect. So you have to escort the person out with commands first. Sir, let's start heading out. Sir, give him the information. Let him know what he's in violation of, and then continue to head on out, or try to proceed out of the building. They're venting, so let them vent. But as you vent, you need to be heading outside. Now, as we try to escort you out, if you pull away from us and resist us, then we are authorized to escalate our level. So at that point, we will grab you into custody. And there are a couple ways to have a person in custody and escort them out. So custody means that we actually secure you with our hands. We don't just lead you with our hands, we secure you. So one person's on one side, another person's on the other side, and we start to pull you towards the exit. Now, you can resist on another level. You can start to not want to leave and try to plant yourself. At this point, we can just escort you out, because now you're not trying to leave and you're trying to plant yourself in place by holding on to things, by using your internal energy to keep from moving. At this point, we have to escalate the escorting. Now, usually, if you have a strong person you're dealing with, two people may not have the strength and capacity to be able to kind of carry this person along outside of the event. You may need 3, you may need 4. Because if they're holding on to things, you need one person to remove his hands from whatever he's holding on to. And the other 2 or 3 are leading him to the exit. So this situation, believe it or not, has to be controlled. There has to be a communication officer, and there has to be officers that actually implement the escort. There should always be a communication officer, because you should always be communicating with this person that's not compliant. Trying to make sure this person continues to hear the commands that we want them to obey. Now, this situation um, uh, gets out of control. And the reason why it gets out of control is because you have citizens, and one of the citizens is an uh, ex special forces person. Nonetheless, these people don't train with your contact person and your escort officers. They don't train with these people. Therefore, the techniques that I just mentioned mean nothing when someone outside steps in to so-called assist you, because they don't feel like you're getting the person out fast enough. So this special forces person that comes over has no restraint. Where what I just mentioned, all those levels are levels of restraint to try to keep from what has happening. With all this special forces uh, uh, testosterone, this man uses too much force. And in the midst of the force that he's using, the firefighter's arm is wedged in the door. Wedged to a point where someone has to notice this on the officer level. And see, there's no officer at this point in view giving commands to see that that has happened. These officers are actually on the outside of the firefighter heading out the door. So this special forces officer, citizen, comes in with this amount of force that is so overwhelming and causes them to continue to push this person out of the door, even though his arm is wedged in the door, and dislocates his arm. Just pulls it out the socket like it was nothing. But to pull a man's arm out the socket like it was nothing is an amazing amount of force. You don't even see this on UFC unless it is an extreme situation. And these guys in UFC go at it, blow after blow, but you don't see people pulling people's arms out the socket like it's just so easy to do. It's not that easy to do. You have to have a lot of strength and a lot of force to do that. So, freedom of speech. Are we wrong? Are we right? Does he have a right to come in there and holler and scream and talk about, you know what, the war? We don't want to go to Israel and fight for Israel. We don't want to fight for Israel. That's what he's screaming. Freedom of speech, right? Well, someone asked me, it said to me, but what's the problem? I mean, he has the right to speak. He has the right to come in there and say what he wants to say on the federal level. The laws cover you on the federal level. Now, on the private level, you have to look at it a few ways. Number one, who do you work for? Because I couldn't get this across to the person I was talking to. Who do you work for? Because the rules have changed over the years when it comes to freedom of speech. And depending on who you work for, you don't have that freedom. How do you know? Because when you start a job, today a lot of companies tell you about being on social media and making comments about situations as you are employed with them. See, when you are employed with a company, you now represent the company. And companies feel like you can't be on social media making comments when, in a sense, you represent us. Therefore, you can't make those comments. If you do, there are penalties, and you could even lose your job for doing so. And I'm pretty sure that first responders, whether you're a firefighter, hospital, doctors, law enforcement, a lot of these agencies want you to refrain from speaking your mind on social media. You represent the company. You represent who you work for. And those statements you make can come back and bite the company you work for in the end. Because people like to connect things. Well, who do you work for? Speaking this way, who's your employer? And people will do that. They will put you out there. Just like this firefighter. The situation that he's been involved in now has him receiving some charges. He's receiving charges for causing a situation. He's receiving charges for assault. He's receiving all kinds of charges for having the freedom of speech. He had an opinion about how we should help Israel in a particular war per se. But nonetheless, he had an opinion. And he did the opinion at a private event, federal private event. But nonetheless, he is looking at being arrested. He's looking at charges just because he had an opinion in regards to his freedom of speech. And what we also heard was from his fire department he works for, he's been put on administrative leave. Does your company say, hey, come on back to work? We got you, Bill. Come on back. Once you get your arm fixed and everything. And today, if you don't read your the employee's manual when you get ready to work for somebody, if you're that person, that firefighter, making all that ruckus, saying all those things on camera for millions of people, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on administrative leave. And depending on your status with your company, you may be out of a job. Because no one's going to support you on the private level. Might support you on the federal side of things, but on the private level, the freedom of speech is not the freedom of speech. Not very complicated, not very hard to understand, so I don't understand why I kept going back and forth with this person about, well, why can't they say what they want to say? And I'm saying because of who they work for. If you work for a fire department and they tell you don't go on Facebook making comments about things, okay, but you decide to go to a meeting, a federal meeting, and go in there, which is being taped for the world, and interrupt that and say the same comments you could have put on Facebook in this meeting, you're not only are you more in trouble, but you've put this on a larger spectrum of people to be able to see and connect you, the firefighter, with these comments. And who do you work for? That's what they're going to want to know first. And immediately, it wasn't like they sat down with them and said, well, let's go over the situation and see if your freedom of, excuse me, Lord have mercy, to see if your freedom of speech has been violated. No, they put him on administrative leave right away. Get out of here. Get up out of here. Go home. That's what they'll do. Freedom of speech. You want to sit down somewhere, sit your hind parts down somewhere and be quiet. When you sit down somewhere and be quiet and have your opinion, there's a couple things you're going to accomplish. You're going to still have your car. You're going to still have your job to pay for your car. You're going to still have your money to buy your food and pay your bills. You're going to still have a lot of things when you just sit your hind parts down and express your freedom of speech with the person sitting next to you. They may agree, they may disagree, but you know what? You're still going to have all of your livelihood. This man is on administrative leave and don't know if he's going to have a job next week. Doesn't make any sense. And then what do you accomplish by doing that? Wearing his Marine outfit, you also embarrass the military. You embarrass yourself he had sergeant stripes on. You embarrass yourself as a leader. And you embarrass everybody in general who has to go deploy and go and do this job. 9 times out of 10, when people are going to do these things, you know what they're doing? They're taking orders. It's not like they necessarily agree with the entire situation. I never agreed with the situations when I went on my deployments, but I had to go. I had to go. Yes, Miss Elsie Jenkins had to go. I went to Haiti and had to deal with Haiti situation many years ago. Now, to sit there and break down and tell people how I feel about Haiti and decide I'm not going, well, you know what? I'm in the wrong profession. Because in the military, you take orders. If you don't want to take orders and you don't want to do these things that are questionable, then you don't need to be in the military. And then you should have wore your firefighter's outfit in there, not the military uniform. You're going to represent something. Represent the company that put you on administrative leave, and that's the fire department. Wear their dress uniform. Don't put the military's dress uniform on and embarrass them. You as a squad leader, and most E5s are squad leaders, you don't come in the room with the troops with this kind of ideology, not as a damn Marine. Because you know we're the first to go, Marines. So for you to come in here and talk about what you're not happy with and what you're not going to, who you're not going to fight for, that's hypocritical of a Marine. Marines do what they're told to do and go where they're told to go and accomplish what they're told to accomplish, whether they like it or not. So for you to walk into this meeting with your Marine dress uniform on, you should have wore your firefighter's dress or your firefighter's uniform. That's what you should have did, because that's who you're embarrassed. The fire department you work for. You're not even in the military no more. But you damn sure embarrassed your fire department that you work for. So you should have been wearing their attire. ZZ109FM, this is Elsie Jenkins. The freedom of speech is not free. You got to be careful what you say, who you say it, because you could wake up like this firefighter and not have a job. Getting up this morning and going to the kitchen and trying to figure out what you're going to eat versus going to work today, because today was your day to go to work, but you're on administrative leave, so I guess you're just going to sit in your house and figure out what they're going to do to me next. Because that's where you're at till you get a phone call and they tell you to bring your ass back to work. And when you bring your ass back to work on administrative leave, trust me, you ain't going to just go back in there and get on the truck and start working. You go into somebody's office. They're going to close the door, and the rest is history. Freedom of speech, it's not free. And there are consequences depending on who you got to deal with on this planet in 2026. Stay safe. Look over your back. You don't know what's going on with these people on the planet, but you better assume the worst out of people right now, because we got people that have deported that are mad at Americans, people in Mexico that are mad at Americans, people in Iran they're mad at Americans, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we are targets. So do not feel a certain type of way when you walk and you see some woman looking Iranian, man looking Iranian, foreign looking. Don't feel any embarrassment. Your those are called your spider senses. You better be on alert, because you don't know who the hell they are. You don't know what the hell their intentions are. But you ought to assume the worst from people today, because that's the kind of world we're living in. You can't assume the best. You have to assume the worst. And be prepared. Have a backup plan as to what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Because you don't want to be a casualty of war, and you don't want to be a statistic. And when you go to Sam's Club, watch them suckers in the damn parking lot, because they ain't caught attendance. Not when they come over there and get your card and ask you for some damn money. Be blessed and stay alive and stay alert. There's a lot going on in 2026, more than I can imagine. More than I can imagine is going on this planet. So stay safe. Take care.